This episode sponsored by Lake Monster Details, producing the Don's Light and Magic Legacy line of parts, offering upgrade parts and decals for accuracy, special effects, and lighting. Visit www.lakemonsterdetails.com and make it glow. Also sponsored by GCals, producing aftermarket replacement decals and custom quality graphics for your favorite spaceships. Visit www.gcals.company.site and add some personalization to your sci-fi models today. Also sponsored by Mask Design, boldly going where no masking kit has gone before. Take your model to the next level of detail and accuracy with a masking kit from Mask Design. Visit Mask Design on Facebook or click the ordering link in the notes below the video.
Dispatch War Rocket Ajax to bring me back his body.
What's up, fellow modelers? Will here. Welcome to the Answers Share. This episode, we are going to continue on the build of the War Rocket. And I've gotten pretty far with it. This is where I'm at with it now. I've got the bridge installed. I've got the panel lines all painted on it. And I've got those ribs installed on it. I've done all my touch-up work that I needed to do to the markings that got all messed up. The red especially, they got messed up. I've got that other cannon added back in, sans lighting effect, because I can't do it without tearing the wing open, and I really don't have time to do it. Only 2 weeks out from Wonderfest, I'm just going to have to live with it. And there's a little something I got to touch up there. Every time I look at this, there's something I got to touch up. But I'm pretty close at this point. I got a couple more things to do, and had to make a repair, which we'll talk about in this episode. So without further ado, give me a minute. I'll put you on the bench. We'll get to work. All right, guys. So I said I was going to get this wing painted before we start the next episode, but I actually want to show you how I'm masking this off. For those that may be interested, that maybe haven't done a lot of this masking and painting stuff, but I figured I'd show you how I'm masking this and painting it. I did also want to mention, too, that I wasn't completely happy with the fact there wasn't much difference between this color and this one, but I changed the color. I actually went in and used the Red Alert, which is the color, let's see, this one here, this Americana Deco Art Americana Red Alert. That's what I'm using for the interior, and I figured I'd give it a try here and see if I could get that difference in color. And I don't know how well the camera's picking it up. It looks like it's picking it up fine, but I really like that difference in the color there. So that really, I really hate autofocus. But there we go. So I really like, I had it for a second there. Anyway, I really like the slight difference in color there. So I'm way happy with that. So I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. And what I do is to mask these off, I've got these strips, and I should have mentioned this before, but these are 1 millimeter, and just a quick suggestion on using masking for this size. When you're doing curves, I find that vinyl masking works way better than paper masking, and you can get oh, my chair's squeaking a lot here. Where it is? Like, this is Tamiya masking tape. Now this is actually, I think, 2mm tape. It's too wide for this. But this is paper, and it doesn't stretch at all. So it's not really good for doing around curves, at least not curves where you need it to the top of the tape, the curve around. If you were doing like a flat edge, like the front of this, and you needed to mask it off, this would be fine for that. But to make it curve like that on a flat surface, this stuff isn't good for that. You need a good vinyl mask. I've got some here. This is vinyl masking, and it's white. But the problem is, this is the same as that. It's 2mm. It's too thick. It would make the lines too wide. So what I did was I used my Cricut, and I cut these 1mm wide pieces of mask out of vinyl, and that's what I'm using to mask off these lines that you see on here. So just so you know what size it is, I should have mentioned that previous episode, but hopefully anybody that's trying this is watching the full Monty, getting all this information before they start on it. Now, I had already put these on once, but I realized I had already sprayed, there was too much gold on this wing, so I had to go back and repaint it with black, which means I had to wait. I actually only gave this a full day, maybe a little over a full day, but it should be just fine. I don't think that paint peel issue I had before was because it wasn't cured. It was definitely cured. I think it was more of something when I was working on the model before, either sanding debris or something that I didn't get cleaned off of there properly, and therefore I ended up with a couple spots where the paint didn't properly adhere, because it only happened on the top here. All of this back here was fine. All the sides, both sides were fine, and but just this thin area up top here, it's like something, some dust or something got on there. I didn't completely clean it off before I put the black paint on, and therefore it didn't adhere properly. So I've got this line, and all I'm doing is following the curvature of this this part that's this kind of shape that's already formed on the wing for you. And what we can do is take this and slide this up a little bit. There we go. And if it doesn't look quite right, you can always take it and try to slide it a little bit. That looks good. Sorry about my sinuses if I'm sniffing a lot. I got a lot of dust and pollen going on right now, so it's kind of getting my sinuses and my throat and really aggravating me this time of year. But at least the weather's getting nice out now. All right, so we'll take this piece and run that up into here, and then again we will just follow this curve around here. And if you don't stay exactly on, oops, hopefully this piece is going to work again, because like I said, I already put it on here once, and then I had to pull it back off to repaint. I might need to rub this part down, make sure it sticks on there real good. Just pull it right back off again. All right, there we go. So the thing about this using this narrow of a piece of tape is that you don't have a whole lot of adhesive to make contact with it, so it can be kind of finicky getting it to stick on there. But you also don't want it overly tacky to where it's peeling paint off all the time either. So we'll get this piece worked around here. And like I said, just follow this curve as best you, these curves as best you can with what looks right to you. kind of burnish this down with the Q-tip. Like I said, it's the best way I've found to really kind of get these worked down properly, because the Q-tip won't scratch the paint. So we've got that shape in place. There's one more, excuse me, one more thing we got to put on here. There's a, this doesn't quite run all the way up to the hull. There's a little bit of a gap, and because it looks to me in the studio model when I look at it that there's a little bit of gold before you get to the body on the wing top here. So I just run this piece. It's a little tight to get up in this area though. And this piece is a little bit too long, I think. So I'm gonna cut just about 1 millimeter off of here. And we'll just work that into place. And once I think it's where I need it, I'll come in with the Q-tip and again, just kind of, yep, come out of place on that end. I apologize. I know some of these segments are going to be a little boring because you're watching me basically put masking on, but for those of you that haven't really done a whole lot of masking and painting, hopefully this will kind of help you out. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, so we've got that in there. You see where that leaves just a little bit of a gap between the body and where the red is going to be. And I've got just a little bit of that sticking out still, so a little bit of an adjustment here still. There we go. All right. So we've got that in place. And then we've got to work out this box. Now I'm going to do a little bit different on this side than I did on the other side, because I think it's going to be easier to do the gold first and then come over the center with the red. Because if I get any bleed over or any gets under my masking tape, it's not getting under the vinyl tape, it's getting under the masking tape itself. If any gets under that and gets onto the gold, just like you saw back here, all I need is a Q-tip and I can clean that red off. Whereas if I do it the opposite way, do the red first and do the gold over it, I really don't have much choice but to mask it off and redo the touch-up. So I'm going to try to avoid that this time and do the gold first and then come over with the red. So what I've got to do now is take some masking tape, because I try to protect this as much as possible. That way I'm not putting craft paint over this gold, because I think this gold is a lacquer, and the red being an acrylic, I don't think. And you guys that are more familiar with this stuff than me, because I'm not an expert on paint. I usually just deal solely with craft paint. As a matter of fact, if I do another one of these, I'll probably do it in just craft paint, because I think the gold craft paint would look just as well. I've gotten pretty good results out of using the gold craft paint. So I think if I do another one of these, I'll do straight craft paint on it. And it'll alleviate a lot of problems. Craft paint's just a lot easier to work with than any lacquers or the or any of the other paints that you deal with typically with model paints. So I'm not gonna sit here and do this on camera, because it takes me a minute and it's really gonna be boring. But it's basically just taking masking tape and cutting little pieces and fitting it in and gradually covering this over. So give me a couple minutes to get that done. I'll come back and show you before I go on and paint it. So give me just a minute. All right, so we got this masked off, that side of the wing, masked around. And I've also, I'm going to mask off, I've got this just lined right here, but I'm going to mask this top off. And that way I can do gold all over and kind of get this gold, the top half of this done anyway with gold. The back, I've got another pattern that we've got to do on the sides here, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let me go ahead and get that gold sprayed on. We'll come back, we can pull these masks off, and then we got to remask where the gold is after it's been allowed to sit and dry for a little bit. So give me a minute, I'll put that gold on, we'll come back, take a look. All right, so we got that gold painted on. Move my coffee over here. I've got that painted on and the mask's removed, so now that's ready for the red paint. But now I've got to mask this off on the outside. I'm going to let this gold paint set up for, I don't know, probably overnight, because it's late in the evening now. So I'll probably just let this sit up overnight, and then I'll paint this tomorrow after this has had a chance to sit and dry and cure real well. So we'll take a little break. We'll come back to it. It'll be overnight for me, but it'll be a couple of seconds for you, so give me a bit. All right, guys, so I want to focus on getting this pattern done on the back. It's not a complicated pattern. It's basically there's just an area of gold right in here where that vent is. There's a strip of gold there, and then the rest, everything up to this end of this half round window is red. Or actually, I'm sorry, everything up to this nose on this end is red, and then this nose itself is gold on the end here. So I've just got to mask it off. Right now I've just got both sides of these masked off, trying to protect and keep as much of that gold off the area I need to paint red as possible. I'm not too worried about a little bit of gold being on there, but I want to reduce the possibility of there being any negative interactions later on between that craft acrylic paint and the what I think is what could possibly create a problem with this gold. So I want to try to reduce as much as possible how much gold gets on these parts that I've got to paint red. So I've got to paint that red, and again, I've broken one of these cannons loose because they're so, without that tab to stick in to kind of give them some reinforcement, they just tend to break loose so easy if you just tap them. So that's one thing I can't really do much about now, but just got to be a little more careful with handling it. But when I was doing this part, I noticed too, though, on this back end, I've got to make a modification on this for the file, but since I've already got this attached, and it's not an option to swap this back out at this point. So what I did was I had to come in here and Dremel a flat spot. You've got these raised kind of ribs around the engine here, and there should be one where it's just flat, where there's no rib, if you look at the studio model. And in there's a red with black lines kind of paint scheme. So in order for me to do that, I had to come and Dremel that raised area off of this side and off of this side. Now, unfortunately, I don't have this rotated to where, because I wasn't worried about necessarily lining up anything in particular. So it's actually a little bit higher on each side than it should be, but not by much. I mean, if when you go to line this up, when you go to build this model, if you line up the correct raised area with the notch here on the top of the War Rocket, you should be good to go. I'm going to edit this file so that these are on the exact opposite sides of each other, because really if I was doing that, it should be where I've got this one, it should be this one below the one I did, but in order to keep these somewhat even, I'm having to do one above it. So that'll be fine. You won't notice it unless you really knew to look for it. It's on opposite sides, so I'm not worried about it, but I'll modify this file. And that's why I said, I know I've had a lot of people asking if these mods are going to be available. And I've said before, but apparently everybody doesn't go back and watch all the videos. But these mods will be available, the ones I'm doing, for free. I will put them up on Colts 3D, or I'll put them up on my own storage, like Google Drive or something, and provide a link in the final video when I close this out. Hopefully at the end of the month here before Wonderfest. When I close this out, I will put the link in the notes below. So look for it there. I'll make sure I remind everybody that on the last video I'll mention that link is in the notes at the bottom. But all these mods will be available for free, along with the model itself is already free on Colts, on I think CG Trader and maybe Thingiverse. So the model itself is already free. So everything I do, I'm going to look to put into one zip file and put it on a drive and share it and let everybody just kind of have at it. Because it's a great model to build. It's a free model. I haven't done a lot of free models, but I got to tell you, for free, this has actually been a pretty great model. A couple little things, some gaps you got to work with and that, but other than that, for free, you can't really complain, and it's turning out great. So I've got these masked off on the bottom here. Oh, I also want to mention too, if you haven't noticed, I painted the other wing, but I've got a fix. If you look at this, you might notice this doesn't quite come out as far forward as this one does, and that's because I misaligned the where I had my tape. I didn't quite catch the front edge like I should have. It's a minor thing. I may or may not worry about it. It's the least of my concerns right now. It's an easy fix. But right now I just kind of want to move forward and get other things done first. And now that I've got both sides, you can kind of see that slight color difference. I really like the way that red alert paint made just the slightest difference in the color there, just like on the studio model. So I'm really happy with that. I think if I build another one of these, I'll probably, instead of using the True Red on this, I'll probably use Red Alert for the whole thing. And then use that, I think it was Cardinal Red, like I did for this. And then, again, Red Alert here. So, just a future consideration. But what I want to do right now is I've got this masked off for the most part, for the back. So, because I want to start working on this back end. And I want to get this all painted in gold so I can come back, mask it off, and then work on doing that red that needs to be done. But I do need to... there is a small speck of gold. I need to redo this masking so that I can go ahead and get that gold in the center painted along with the gold on the bottom here. So give me a little bit to work on that. I'm going to get that worked out and well, not repaint, but paint the gold on here. And we'll come back and take a look before we do the red. All right, so this back bottom half dome is it's a pretty simple one. Basically, all we need to do is take the 1mm masking tape and just make two lines in parallel. One line above this vent and the other below this vent. And then this whole center part gets painted gold. So we just need to mask off. Not so much the forward end here because that's all going to be gold. But mask off the bottom, top, and then this side, which is going to be red. This window is going to be red. So I'm going to mask those off on both sides. You can see there. And paint those gold, and we'll come back. All right, so I've got that masked off, and now we can just paint this whole box gold and both sides. So go paint that. We'll come back and take a look. All right, so I've got that masked off on both sides and just need to paint this box on both sides gold, and we'll be ready for the next step. So give me a minute. All right, so I've got that painted in gold on both sides in that area, and now what I got to do is remove the masking tape without removing the blue vinyl mask, the 1mm mask, because the next step is to mask the inside where we just painted the gold, and the rest of that, everything on the outside of that is going to get painted red. So do my best to get this off without moving the mask, peeling it up or moving it. It's trying to pull up on me right there, so see if we can get in here and hold that down. There we go. All right, just come with a Q-tip and it's actually moved just a little bit on me. I can see some of the black. This looks like it stayed in place. All right, so I'll do the same thing on this side, and then I'll mask off that center part, and we'll take a look before I go and paint that red. All right, got this all masked off, and yeah, that's a lot of fun to mask off. I wouldn't be surprised if I got a little bit of cleanup to do after I spray this, just because there's so many little nooks in there, and it's difficult to get the tape to conform into every little nook and cranny on here. I got a couple little spots where the tape just doesn't want to stay down, so I'm going to have to be careful and rub that down real good before I spray the paint. But I wouldn't be surprised if I got a couple little areas I got to clean up around this, but it's all masked off, so we'll go give it a shot and see what comes up. Alright, so I got that side detail painted and got the masking removed, and you can see turned out pretty good. I've got, as expected, a couple areas I got to clean up, but I did make one mistake, and that is this bulb on the end here is supposed to be gold, so I'm gonna have to, fortunately I got to take that red off pretty easily with some water and a Q-tip, so I'm going to clean that off and then just mask it off. It's an easy fix, mask it off and then paint it gold. But that's the only thing major I've got to do. Other than that, a couple little spots where it got under the mask, but again, Q-tip in some water and that stuff will come right off. Let's take a little Q-tip and go in here and clean it up. I need a fine point Q-tip for most of this though, because I don't want to remove any of the red where it's supposed to be. But for example here, I can just take all this off. You can see how easily that stuff just starts to come off on the Q-tip. So I'll remove all this and then I'll come around with a fine point, one of my fine point Q-tips, and clean off this little bit of extra, and we'll come back and look at getting this last major detail that we got to get done as far as the red and the black lines. This one has a little bit of a triangle shape on the front that I've got to work out. So let me get this cleaned up and we'll come back and take a look at getting that last detail done, and then the rest of this is pretty much just gold. But I am noticing that I've got to do some work here. I noticed that where I trenched at, as I've started to add the gloss in that, it's a bit more visible, so I'm going to have to sand this some more. I'm actually saving this for last because if I have enough time, I do want to fix this light on this side, that chaser effect. So if I've got time, if I can get this done and have at least a week before Wonderfest, which I've got a little over 3 weeks right now, I think I might have enough time to get this fixed before I go to Wonderfest. So I'm not too worried about fixing this yet. I'm saving that for last, but we'll take a look at it later. So let me get this cleaned up and get this changed to where it's supposed to be gold, and then we'll come back and work on this last detail, and that'll pretty much be it, and then we'll be ready to start doing the panel lines and the weathering. So give me a little bit. All right, so I pretty much got that taken care of back here. Got that painted gold, so that's the way that should be. Turned out pretty nice. I also, while I was over there at the painting booth, I went ahead and masked off this area back here. There's supposed to be a spot here on the side, which I talked about before, where I had to modify it. And you need to have a couple of red and black lines here. So I masked off 3 spots, which will become my black lines, and I painted red here. Let's see if I can get this up. And there we go. There's our 3 red lines. I don't know how well it's going to show up yet. I still got to paint the rest of this gold, but there's our black and red lines, which we're supposed to have on the back here. They don't show up as well back here with the black background, but once I put some gold around, it'll probably make them pop out a little more. But yeah, that's all I did was mask off. Use 3 of the 1mm pieces of masking, and masked off back here, trying to get this up without scratching anything. So there we go. There's our 3, there's our lines there. So got those painted in now, and now I can start looking at working on these 2 last front red, and I keep breaking this off. See, this is what I mean. I'm not even going to glue it again until after I get done, because it just keeps breaking. I just tapped it a little bit with my pinky just now and it broke. So that's a continuing issue with these cannons, the way that they're currently designed. It's just dependent on the glue holding it in place, and the glue can't do but so much. But anyway, so I'm going to start working on trying to, we'll see how I'm going to mask this off and do this this little triangle pattern on the front here. And the rest of this is pretty easy, but we do have a little triangle pattern here that that I've got to get straight. So give me a little bit to figure that out, and I'll come back and show you what I come up with. All right, so I've got my my little triangles or pyramids or whatever shape you want to call it. My pointer shape at the front. I've got that taped off using again 1mm mask. Did it on both sides. Got them both as close as I could get them to looking identical. So I am going to mask this off. And basically, we need to mask off. We're just painting this gold triangle here, but I want to get paint around this outer edge too, where this it's almost like an intake shape, but of course this is sticking out of it. But I want to get paint around this. I guess you'd call it a shroud, but I want to get gold paint around that at the same time. But I need to mask off this this half dome here because this all gets painted gold, or all gets painted red, except for again this tip. The tip on both these gets painted gold as well. So let me mask that off, and we'll get some paint put on it and see how it looks. All right, so I've got this masked off, except everywhere that I need gold paint to go. So I can actually get pretty much the rest of my gold on, again, except for this wing, because I'm either going to try to fix the lights if I have time, or I still got to do some work on this to get rid of that. You can see where I trenched it before, like I said. So I got some work to do on that either way. But I'm going to get at least the gold on here and the gold here. I've got to do a little more sanding in this area here. So we'll get that gold on and come back, and we'll take a look at what we're going to do next. All right, so we've got the those triangles on both sides painted, and they're good to go. So the next step is going to be to mask this off. We need to mask off this gold and mask off all the gold around, and then all this black gets painted red. So that's the next step I'm going to be working on. So I'll work on that, and we'll come back and take a look. All right, this is all masked off and ready for the red paint, and we'll just about be done with the basic painting. So give me a minute, we'll get some red on here. All right, so I've got this front painted up, and there's our little triangle, a little pointed shape on the side there, both sides. Turned out nice. I had a little bit of the red paint get under, and I've got to do a little more cleaning up. I've cleaned up most of it. We got a couple areas where I need to get a fine point Q-tip and just come in and clean up the edges a little bit. But it looks good. I'm happy with the way it turned out. Oh, I got a little more paint right here I got to clean up. But I did have my first instance of the gold paint peeling up just a little bit right there. But that may be because I didn't wait long enough for it to dry. I got a little bit that came up in little spots right here. But this gold goes on so thin that it's not a problem. I can just go over that without having to worry about sanding it. Just go back over it with some gold, and it'll be fine. So everything is that's pretty much the main painting. I did paint this back, but I'm gonna have to redo it. You can see those lines that I painted on there. Well, the problem is some of it peeled up a little bit in spots, so I'm gonna have to go back over it and fix it when I mask this off to paint the gold, which is why I prefer to paint the gold first and then do the red, because like I said, that red doesn't adhere as well as most of the other paints. But you can see it real bad on this side, it peeled up. So I'm gonna have to go back over that and fix that. But I'll do that and get that fixed up, and then we will be ready to start looking at doing some weathering, and well, mainly panel lines, not so much weathering, but we'll do a little weathering here and there. I do have to paint this add-on grill that I put back here. I'm going to do that with the pale burnt metal, I think is what it's called, which is the same thing I used for the sides, the little side ribbed areas on this. So I'm going to use that for this grill, and get that painted. And I do have to still do red bands around the cannons, the wing cannons yet on here. So I've got to get those painted on. I think that's all that goes on there, red bands. I'll have to look at the picture of the studio model again and see if I see anything else. But it looked like it was just mainly red bands around the front. So I'm going to work on that. And once I get those few things squared away, we'll come back and we'll start looking at doing the panel lines on this. I'm probably not going to sit here and go through all the panel lines on camera, because that would be really long and even more boring than it already is. So I'll show a couple how I'm going to do it, and then I'll go through and paint it, and we'll take a look at the final results. But give me a little bit to work on those other details, and we'll come back and take a look. All right, guys, I've been working on the paneling on the one side here, and it's turned out all right. I've gone back and removed some of it because it just started to get too busy. I think maybe there's such a thing as too much, and it was just getting too much. You know, it's the War Rocket. It should look like it's been in battle, but it shouldn't look like it's taking a butt whipping. So I've gone and removed some of it, and I think the rest of this I can clean up using the ribbed pieces that have to go on here yet. Just like with the fin here, these rib pieces have to go on the sides of this. And I think once I put those on, the rest of this will be fine. I do also have that one trim piece. I almost forgot that I've still got to put on the side here as well. So I think that once I get those pieces on, I think that'll look just fine. It just was looking too much. So I had to go back in and mask off some areas. And just, I took a little, I don't have a piece sitting with me. I think it was like 2,000 or 1,000 grit sandpaper, and just lightly sanded it just to make sure. I mean, this paint goes on pretty thin. But I sanded it just to make sure I didn't have a whole bunch of raised lines where I had originally put some panel lines before. And then I came back over it with the gold and just removed it. I moved a couple up here and some here, and one or two back here somewhere. I don't remember where it's at. I can't even tell where it was at now. But just too much paneling is just it just started to make this look more like the War Rocket got its butt whipped. It looked like it had been repaired after Flash Gordon finished with it, instead of looking like something representative of Ming the Merciless. So I've taken some of that off, and like I said, I think the rest of this will be fine once I get those pieces on. But the other side, I'm not going to do the paneling the same on both sides. In the movie, you only see the studio model filmed from the starboard side. So, I'm sorry. No, yeah, the starboard side. This would be the port side. The left side, starboard side would be the right side. And you only see it filmed from this side. But when you see the close-up shots when they're fighting on the wing, the full-size model they built was built from this side, from the port side. So you see pretty much from the wing back. And I believe, I got to look at the movie again, make sure, but I'm pretty sure that's how it was, how it looked, how it was filmed. But so you don't really see this side of the War Rocket much, or if at all. So you kind of got to play around with it and decide what you want to do. You can have it look symmetrical and do the same panels on both sides. It doesn't matter. But I did want it to at least look like it's the War Rocket. So you expect that it's been in battle, that it's had some panels replaced, and so that's what I want to do. But I think this side's maybe a little bit too busy. So I think maybe on the other side I'm going to go a little bit lighter on the paneling, and just do maybe 3 or 4 different colored panels. Do mostly do the red gold like I've got on here, and then do a little bit of the silver, or the pale burnt metal is what it is, in a couple spots. And I think that's going to be it. I don't want to overdo it, and I think the other side's a little busy, a little busier than what I want it to look. So that's what I'm going to work on this side. Basically, I'm taping it off. I did try to do a couple little different things. I might have to fix this front, because I did try to do some penciling on the front. And this paint, really going to have to clear coat it, probably, the pencil panel lines, because it just scratches the paint right off. But I am using this is probably not the best pencil to use. So a mechanical pencil instead of using just a straight number 2 pencil, or an artistic pencil for doing it with. But either way, I think you're still going to have to clear coat this before you can do any pencil lines. So I'm going to forego that. I'm going to get this cleaned up and do these panel lines the way that I'm doing the rest of them, just so they look the same. But anyway, that's what I'm working on now. I'm gonna get some of this stuff masked off, and I'll show you what I'm masking off, just in case you want to know, before I go and paint it. So just give me a minute, and we'll come back and take a look. All right, I got this masked off, and I've done quite a bit fewer paneling on this side than the other side. So basically, I'm gonna do red gold, silver, or sorry, the pale burnt metal. I keep calling it silver, but it is basically silver. Red gold, pale burnt silver, red gold. So just a little bit of pale burnt thrown in, but mostly just mixing it up with the pale gold. So let me throw the paint on here, and we'll come back and take a look at it. All right, so I've got this side, I've got the paneling painted in there, you can see. Unfortunately, I got a couple spots where that red peeled up a little bit. So I'm going to fix there, I got to fix it there on the back here, and then a spot right there I've got to fix now. It's just the way it is sometimes. But so I've got that, and you can see it's a lot less busy on this side than on this side. But I've still got to add the panel line details as well. And the one thing to keep in mind is there's still those rib details that got to go on here too. So that's kind of going to even it out. Once I put those rib details on, it should pretty much even it out. I may have still a little more action on this side than on this side, but it's okay. It'll pretty much balance out. Once I get those rib details, I've got to put in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these rib details on each side. So and they'll be spread out, not necessarily on the model, not necessarily evenly spread out. They're kind of spread out in different areas. So I'll work on this side first, because this is the area I need to work on the most to try to kind of blend it all in, and then I'll just mirror that on this side. And I kind of taped this off to where I'd be able to do that too. So I kind of had an idea where I want to place them on this side, and then I painted the panels on this side to kind of match up enough to where I could put those rib parts on this side, and it'll kind of help blend this side in too. So let me work on that, and we'll come back and take a look at the final result once I get those rib details on. Oh, once I get the rib details on and get the panel lines painted on this side. All right, so note to self and anybody looking to build this model, maybe add these side pieces on a little sooner than towards the end, because there's a little bit of work that has to be done. You can see I'm kind of filling it in there with my perfect plastic putty, which is working out fine. But you can see there's like some crinkling going on there, so I'm going to have to sand that and try to calm that down some. Of course, I'm going to be doing a alternating paint pattern on this too, which will kind of help take that down a little bit. But you can just see a little bit of crinkling along there, and I'm not too happy with that. But it would have been easier to deal with that before I got this far into the model. So I'm just going to do the best I can with it now. And I might have to do some more sanding here, which shouldn't be too hard to do without messing up the paint detail I've already done on the hull. So I'm going to have to work on that some, and I've got to let this dry, because as it dries, it kind of settles into the cracks a little bit. And I've got to put some more in there to kind of fill this gap. So I'm going to work on that a little bit, and I'll come back and show you where I'm at. All right, so I made quite a bit of progress. I've got all of the painting and the panel lines done on this. I've started adding the side panels for the galley in. Had to do a little bit of putty work with the perfect plastic putty in there, and then coming in with Q-tip and clean it up. And then I'll have to get some gold on the bottom there to blend that in. But I still got to do this side yet. I'm not done tinkering because I said this once already, that sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and I've run into an issue. I was getting ready to attach the fin, and all of a sudden now my lights are not working on the fin. And I have no idea how or why, because after I disconnected this, I set this to the side, and it's just basically just been sitting to the side, and I haven't done anything with this. But yet, for whatever reason, the lights are not working, the front or the back light. So I've got a bit of a dilemma here, because I'm only a little over 2 weeks out from Wonderfest, and I really don't want to have to completely redo this if I can help it. So before I totally toss this and do a whole another one, I'm going to try to drill into the back and the front and hope that I can drill in enough on this front especially that I can rerun wires down. I may have to put a hole in the top here too so that I can get to, because the wires for the SMD in the back and the front meet in a small opening in the back here, and I need to get into that because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to feed the wires through and get them to come down this narrow opening just by feeding them through the holes on the end. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to get this open so I can then push the wires down through. So that's what I'm going to try first. I'm going to try doing that, and then I'll have to patch this spot up here, but that won't be too big of a deal versus if I can't do it that way and I've got to go and completely redo this fin, which is going to really suck. But I'm going to try to do that. This is pretty much done. I just got to, I've got the bridge also installed on here. I don't know how well the camera will pick it up, but you can see some of the lighting I've got in there. And there you go, it's a little bit better of a view. But I've got a little more work to do on that. And then I've got to, I kind of want to leave a seam here. I want to be able to remove this top for the bridge. But I do need to do some work here because I got light bleed here from the lights. And if I don't hold this down, it doesn't seal up real good along the bottom edge. So I may have to put some glue on here. Just to hold it in place, but I want to try to leave it to where I can detach it if I need to get into there. But I need to get this problem figured out. I did test the leads coming off of here, so I know there's power coming out of here because I hooked up a separate LED to this and tested it out. So I know the problem is in this because I hooked this up directly to power and it's not lighting up. So I know the problem is in here somewhere. I just don't know how that could have happened when it's just been sitting there and I haven't done anything with it till now to try to hook it back up. But that's just the way it is sometimes. I'm going to have to get something figured out with this. So give me a little bit to work on that and we'll come back and see what the solution is. Alright, so I was able to get this fixed to where now the lights are working again. Unfortunately, I did take a big chunk out of this, but I've got that chunk sitting right here, so I should be able to glue that in place, putty over it, and sand it, and hopefully you'll never know it was there. But I do have a chunk missing here that I'm going to have to try to sand with, probably have to put some milliput in there or something and try to resculpt it. Hopefully I can do it convincingly, but either way, it's fixed, and well, mostly fixed. Now I just got to fix this big gash in here. But at least I've got my lights back now. I'm glad I don't have to completely redo this part because that was going to be time consuming. So let me work on this, get this done, get this mounted, and well, I may not mount it yet. I've still got a couple things I've got to do to the war rocket itself. That's going to be easier to do without that fin in place. But I'll get that done while I'm working on that, and then hopefully this will be ready to mount on there once I get this sorted out. So give me a little bit to work on that. All right, so I've got that milliput in place. You can see here I've kind of already reshaped it, and I got to let it set up, and I'll have to sand it once it sets up and get the shape all back into it. But I think that'll be all right. So I'm gonna work on that. I gotta let that sit for probably the rest of the day and maybe into tomorrow. And I think that I think what I ended up doing was a big boo-boo on my part. In taking this apart, for some reason I was thinking I had the resistor in that cavity in here, but when I pulled all the wiring out, there wasn't a resistor on it. So I think the resistor was on the end of the wire like I have it here. And at some point while it was sitting over there, the resistor moving stuff around either got pulled off or broke off or something. And when I hooked this up without a resistor, it just blew the lights. So that was a mistake on my part, but that's pretty much what I think happened, because I'm pretty sure there should have been a resistor on the end of this. Well, I know there should have been a resistor on the end of this. You can't just hook up these 0602 SMDs to a 12 volt power supply and without a resistor. So I'm pretty sure that's what I did, but Fortunately, I was able to fix it. Well, I think I'll be able to fix it. I should be able to shape this up just fine and repaint it and then blend everything back together, and it should be good to go. But I think I got one more video maybe, and we should be done with this build. I got a little over 2 weeks from today is the 15th. So I got 2 weeks to Wonderfest. So I've got a little over 2 weeks, about 15. No, I got about 14, 15 days left to get this done before I have to leave for Wonderfest. So I think we'll be all right. Once I get this done, I'm going to finish up what I've got to finish up, get this part mounted. I still got to put the clear pieces. I've started cutting the glass out for the dome on the front for the bridge. And I've got to get the other side piece in, which I've got sitting right here ready to go. And then I've got to get the railings in, which are sitting here ready to go. So it should come together pretty quick after this little misstep here. But once I get all that stuff on, I've got 2 red details I got to paint. I got to paint 2 red lines on each of these. I don't know what these are, intakes, I guess, for the engines. I've got to paint 2 red lines. There's one in the front, one towards the back on each one. And then there's a red band around the cannons on each side. So I've got to paint that. And then I think that's pretty much it for painting. I've still got to paint the underside of the wings. I've got to finish sanding that one underside of the wing where I had already tried to fix the lights twice before. I'm just not going to, especially after this setback, I'm not going to have time to fix those that one strobe light that I lost on that wing. And maybe, like I said, maybe after Wonderfest I'll come back and gouge it out and get it fixed. But I'll probably build another one of these. I've enjoyed this build, so it's been a real enjoyable model to make, and especially with all the modifications I've been able to make to it. So I think one more video and we'll be good to go. But so I'm going to pretty much wrap this one up here. We'll come back, and when we come back I should have this fin ready to go, if not in place. And like I said, I got to get clear coat on here, and then we're going to talk about doing the oil. I've got to get this done within the next week, because I got to do the oil wash on this. That's going to kind of blend all these tones together, all these different colors and the panel lines I've done. I'm going to blend it all together with a oil wash. So we'll talk about that next episode. We'll get that done, and then I need a couple days to a week for that oil wash to really kind of dry and set up. So I've got to get this done within the next week and get that oil wash done by probably next Friday. So get that done. That'll give it a couple days for that wash to kind of dry and set up, and then I'll be good to go. Take it to Wonderfest. So I'll be working on that. In the meantime, please check out my sponsors. Their links are always in the comments section below the video. Gus over at GCals, Gary over at Mass Design, and Cass over at Lake Monster Details. Go visit their site, show them some love, and please, if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button if you like these build videos. Reminder, I do other I do other builds besides just the War Rocket if you haven't seen any of my other videos. So check them out. I do a lot of sci-fi, mostly Star Trek. I've got the 1350 refit, or not refit, but the A that I've got to get back to after Wonderfest. I'll start working on that. I do have the Death Star, Exploding Death Star that I started over a year ago and haven't finished, which I want to try to get finished, which somebody had asked about. And outside of that, I'm really not trying to pick up any new builds this year, other than I do want to try to do some more work on that 1250 Reliant that I started over a year ago. But again, I've got that modification I've got to make that I just don't have the 3D CAD skills yet to do. But again, I appreciate everybody for watching. Until next time, keep modeling.